In the labyrinth of human behavior, the workplace emerges as a microcosm of society. Here, individuals are not mere professionals, but beings shaped by ideologies, personal histories, and the daily vicissitudes of existence. And so, when one among us, a colleague, engages not only in work but in the performance of their private excesses, the challenge is not merely managerial, but philosophical. To manage such an employee is to enter into a dialogue with their signs, their symbols, their deeply constructed meanings. Take, for instance, the employee who consumes not only the most deleterious foods, but insists on expounding the musings of problematic philosophers. They are not a simple disturbance, no. They are a walking semiotic field, broadcasting symbols that signify rebellion, existential discontent, perhaps even a critique of the mundane structures of corporate existence. But how do we, as managers, decode this complexity without falling into the same labyrinthine discourse? First, we must ask, what does it mean to manage? If we define management as the mere correction of behavior, we miss the deeper struggle for meaning that underpins the employee's actions. Instead, we must consider the narrative they are constructing, a narrative steeped in excess, in bloat, in consumption both physical and intellectual. The food they eat, the philosophers they espouse, these are not merely choices but acts of communication. They are statements, no different than the choice of words in a literary text. To resolve this, one must not address the symbols directly. Telling them to stop talking about Nietzsche or eat better merely entrenches the narrative they have created. Instead, as in semiotic analysis, we must shift the context, reframe the conversation. Ask them not what they eat, but what they are hungry for. Are they dissatisfied with their role, their work, their place in the company's hierarchy? What existential void are they attempting to fill with both their words and their meals? Managing an employee such as this requires us to deconstruct their behavior into its constituent signs, to see the underlying messages. Engage them in dialogue, not of correction, but of inquiry. Ask not why they follow a philosopher, but what about that philosopher's critique of modern life resonates with their own professional existence. By doing so, we translate the employee's behavior into something legible, something that can be managed with empathy rather than force. At its core, management is an art of interpretation. We must recognize that each individual brings with them a network of meanings, many of them conflicting, excessive, at times disruptive. But it is through these excesses that they communicate their needs, their desires, their discontent. Our role as managers, then, is to act as the semiotician, carefully untangling the symbols until we arrive at understanding. Only through this process can we move from the chaos of excess to the order of productivity and mutual respect. And thus, with patience and reflection, the problematic becomes productive, the excess becomes balanced, and the workplace returns to its harmonious order. But the lesson remains. To manage is not to control, but to interpret. For the workplace, much like society, is a labyrinth of signs, and it is only through careful reading that we find our way.